Excusez-moi. So, guys, do me a favor, engage with the content. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the channel membership. It's Burn It Down with Kim Brown, Tuesday, Friday, 7 p.m. So, police brutality is on the rise. I encourage everybody to go check out Saturdays with Renee on Black Liberation Media and go to that playlist and check out Renee's very in-depth and extensive coverage on the construction of cop cities across the country. America is already a fascist police state, and somehow it said, you know what? We don't think we're fascist enough. I think America said we need to tighten up on the fascism. But plot twist. Whereas police violence has been happily tolerated and targeted, not happily tolerated by white America because it has been targeted towards Black communities and communities of color. When the shoe is on the other foot, it sometimes hits a little different. And I saw this video going across my timeline. I'm assuming others have seen it. But this is coming out of a small town in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is in the news so much in recent weeks. I'm wondering if there's something celestial behind it, but I won't explore that at this moment. But however, this incident out of Pennsylvania, and it's an incident of police brutality, and let me lead off with everybody survives. Everybody happened to be white. Now that could be a reason why all survived what I would consider a very scary police encounter for a woman motorist who was assaulted. She was attacked by this fucking cop who never reluctantly identified himself. She was charged. She was given a exorbitant bond. Subsequently, charges have been dropped. But the fact that this was all caught on video by one of her neighbors, and the outright shock and dismay from this white community, you can tell. Like I should have looked up the demographics of this place, but so for those that may not be familiar with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has two major cities and some minor cities, but the major cities being Philadelphia to the east, Pittsburgh to the west. And the common knowledge is you have Philly to the east, Pittsburgh to the west, and the middle is Alabama. Okay, like Pennsylvania is Caracabera Central. Okay, make no mistake about that. With Philly and Pittsburgh, maybe some parts of where's some Black folks at? There's a couple of Negroes in Reading, right? Is it Reading? Where's the place? No, what's the capital? I forget. What's the name? There's a couple of Negroes out there in the capital, but Alabama in the middle. Like I said. So anyway, I want us to go to the package. This shit is wild. It is wild. So I want you guys to look at this. But most importantly, I want to send this out as a cautionary warning to white America. This could be y'all all the time. Do you want the Negro treatment all the time, or do you want to get a handle on the police before they start terrorizing you in the same ways and with the same brutality that police do in Black communities and in communities of color? Well, let's go to the package.
You all in my window, I swear to God, I'll shoot you.
Look, I'm getting all this on tape.
Get out of the car!
Look, he pulling a gun. This for the...
Get that on video. Get out of the car. She took off on me. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Go yourself. Get out of the car.
Look, Father God, you dispel this evil in Jesus' name.
Get out of the car. I am a law enforcement officer. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Go yourself. You don't know. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
out of the car, please.
Get out of the car!
No, you assaulted me. I know my rights. You assaulted me. You screamed. No! Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me!
Father.
This man is. Help me! Help me! Help me!
Give me your other hand.
No!
Give me your other
Stop
hand.
it! Mom, get my phone. This man is hurting me. He's assaulting me. He wouldn't show me his badge. He would not show me his badge. He pointed a gun at me.
It's evil, Beth. You got the
I know my rights. Help! Help! I'm being assaulted. Help
Don't do that to
me!
me.
Help
You don't grab
me!
me.
Get off of me! Get off of me! Get off of me!
Don't grab me. You
Get off of me! Get off of me now!
A Monongah woman was pulled over for having an expired registration sticker on her license plate. Within minutes, 49-year-old Beth Delloma was threatened with a gun and tackled to the ground by Chief of Police Nathan Lanham.
She was stopped at the intersection of Shaver and Lambert Street by Officer Lanham, who she claims didn't look like an officer when she was pulled over. She asked to see his badge, and according to her, that's when Lanham began to berate her and threaten her before pulling his gun and pointing it at her head and crotch. Scared in the moment, she drove about 30 yards to her mother's house where the video was filmed. Her neighbor, local Reverend Bill Preston, heard her calling for help as she drove through the field.
I heard screaming, "Bill, Bill, help me, he's got a gun." Well, I didn't know who she was talking about, so I went a little bit closer to talk to her further, and about that time this car pulled down the driveway toward me, and he had to slam on his brakes to keep from hitting me, and the marks are still on the road out there, and he got out of the car, and he pointed his gun at me and told me to get back, which I did. And I might say also, when he first came using that F word, my wife was out there demanding who he was. We didn't know who he was. And he used the F word to my wife.
Bill and his wife have lived in Monongah for over 50 years, and he says he never thought he'd see something like what happened to Beth Delloma.
That was the shock to us. I'd never seen nothing like that, let alone a police officer. You know, I have the greatest respect for the police, you know, what they have to go through. But for a police officer to act that unprofessional, I just couldn't believe it. If a little child, kids that had been around there and seen that, what would they have thought of the police?
Beth was held in jail on a $125,000 bond with felony fleeing with reckless indifference for 5 nights before the charges were dropped earlier today. She is still behind bars as of this broadcast while the paperwork is being filed. We're told she's exhausted and terrified. But the story doesn't end there. A town meeting is being held tonight at 5:30 in part to discuss the events that took place on Thursday.
There's been an update to the story. So the town of Monongah, 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 Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, that's not Pennsylvania. I have told y'all a lie. It's Monongah, West Virginia. My bad. Woo, my bad. I don't know why I kept saying Pennsylvania. It's West Virginia. Look at me. I'm correcting myself on the fly. I try to go for accuracy here. But anyway, I still stand by exactly what I said about Pennsylvania. So everything I said about Pennsylvania, West Virginia, worse. Okay, worse. Okay, where's Negroes in West Virginia? Charleston. Where else they got some Negroes? They got some Negroes. Where Randy Moss from? Around there, right? even less Negroes in West Virginia. Everything I said about Pennsylvania, it's worse for West Virginia. Monongah. Monongah. So the mayor of Monongah, John Boy Palmer, made the announcement that the police chief, Nathan Lanham, who was the police chief that you saw there causing chaos, has been relieved of duty. And not unlike the deputy in Southern Illinois, Sean Grayson, who murdered Sonia Massey in cold blood, this guy, Nathan Lanham, also has a spotty work record at best, where he has worked for several small jurisdictions in a short amount of time, over a duration of just 2 or 3 years. And some of these places he only worked for several months, right? That is clearly a pattern in law enforcement, not one that we are unfamiliar with, but one that we cannot overstate over and over again. When these problematic fucking psychos who are racists, who are misogynists, who are homophobes and transphobes, who are, in my opinion, a lot of times juiced up on something, right? I don't know what the drug testing protocol is for police in the United States, but there needs to be a standard, okay, applied. And it needs to be regular and it needs to be random because these motherfuckers be coming so goddamn hard. It's like, dog, what is it? Coke? Is it meth? Is it the roids? What is this? Because this just cannot be your default work mode. That you so angry over an expired registration sticker that you got to bust this woman's window, that you got to yell and scream and curse and berate her in front of witnesses. This man had no guile. Like there was no qualms. that cop Nathan Lanham had no issues showing his entire ass in front of the neighborhood. And I wanted to say the remarks from the victim's neighbor talking about, had kids been out there and seen this, what would have they thought, right? And it's interesting for him to put it that way because I think about what Black children and brown children and indigenous children, like, what do they think about the police, right? They know, non-white children, they should know if they don't know, that they are subject or can be subjected to random violence at any time from law enforcement for any reason, whether or not they are doing something wrong or no. They understand, Black children and brown children in America understand that they could be the targets of police violence simply just for existing, for walking, for having something in their hands. They understand this. But somehow, white children are not made to confront this or made to understand this. Why? Because they are not the targets of police violence. And you see the sort of confusion, the level of tornness that some of the white folks had, or at least that one man had. I have a great deal of respect for the police. I understand how hard their job is. How hard is their job really? Like, how hard is their job really? If you a small town cop in West Virginia, how fucking hard is your job? Your job is so hard that you got to bust people's driver's side windows out because of an expired registration sticker. And also, to be clear, when women motorists feel unsafe, especially when they are attempted to being pulled over, if law enforcement is behind them and is perhaps in an unmarked vehicle, not in uniform, not wearing anything on them to denote that they are law enforcement, and even then doesn't mean shit. Women are completely justified and entitled to drive to a location to which they feel safe before they decide to engage with the officer. Why is that? Well, glad you asked, because there have been countless instances going back decades and generations in this country specifically of men faking like they are cops, putting on the accoutrements of law enforcement, the belt, the uniform, the fucking blue lights in the dash, all that shit, faking like they are cops, and women end up getting hurt and worse. Okay. So for this cop to berate and scream at this woman over an expired registration sticker and be completely unsympathetic and ununderstanding to why she may have felt unsafe. And I could see why she felt unsafe. He was just screaming at her. I mean, the video may not have shown the whole incident in its entirety, but I didn't hear him identify himself. He didn't say, I'm Officer Nathan Lanham with the Monongah, open it. I didn't hear him say shit. I didn't see him wield a badge or nothing. This woman was not in compliance, and she got the Negro treatment. But it was incredible because at the same time that she's calling for help, obviously no one's coming to help her, which I thought was interesting because we know sometimes, sometimes white men will confront the cops, right? Physically confront the cops, put hands on the cops, and survive the whole thing. May not even go to jail, right? So I was a little surprised that nobody kind of ran up in her assistance, which was interesting. But even though she was calling for help, the way that white woman, even though she was handled extremely rough, that was police brutality. I did not hear the fear of God in her voice. I did not hear a woman who thought that she was in danger of being murdered. When I think about the screams of Black folks in particular, or the thing that excited utterances that they have said or sounds they have made that have been captured on body cam right before the police murdered them, it sounded very different. It sounded like a woman who knew that she was being harmed and believed that her rights were being violated. And she was astonished that that was happening, but she didn't think they was going to kill her. She did not think that her life was in danger. And maybe it's because her neighbors were rolling tape. I'm not sure. Maybe it's because she was a white woman and she knew that usually white women do not get murdered in traffic stops with police. Usually white women do not die whilst in custody, right? She knew her chances were pretty good at survival. So maybe that's why she didn't have that same kind of primal fear in her voice as she was crying for help or calling for help. I wouldn't even say she was crying. She didn't even turn on the Becky water. Girl, girl, you were supposed to do that up, madam. That was the time, honey. That called for a performance. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, the cop, Nathan Lanham, has been relieved of his duty per the mayor of Monongah, West Virginia. Thank you, everybody, for the correction. I don't know if anybody corrected me. I corrected myself. And I just want to be clear. Expect more of this. Expect more of this. Because there is not enough of a universal outrage surrounding police violence and police brutality. It is so normalized in this country, the way that law enforcement treats residents, not only citizens, but residents of this nation, right? But so long as they are brutalizing and murdering unarmed Black folks and murdering unarmed Indigenous folks, or legally armed Black and Indigenous folks and brown folks, most of white America is quite comfortable with that, right? It only turns into, the Patriot Front when they suspect or they feel as though the police state is being used against them. Now, there's so much cross infiltration between like white supremacists and law enforcement and military. I'm sure all white people aren't fearful that the whites are that the law enforcement whites are going to try to come fuck with them, but in some instances they are, right? It's sort of a weird dichotomy of irrational rationalization that comes from white America. On one hand, they're terrified of the government and resolute to resist any tyranny, all that shit that's in the fucking bullshit constitution in the bill, resist any tyranny, any occupation. We will resist. Our government won't blah, blah, blah. They're ready to take up arms via the government, but but at the same time, they're willing to ride for the government if the government is going to ride against the migrants, ride against the Blacks, ride against, the so-called enemies of white America, right? I hated her so bad. But I'm telling you, I see instances of police brutality rising against regular ass white folks, people who consider themselves to be law-abiding white folks. Even the system being weaponized against certain white folks. The trial of Karen Reed in Massachusetts, that shit was fucking crazy, still crazy, ongoingly crazy. Karen Reed, the white woman accused of running over her cop ex-boyfriend or her cop boyfriend, though many believe that it was some other whites in the police gang who did bad things to this boyfriend who ended up dead, and the cops and the prosecutors tried to frame this white woman for the shit. It was wild to see the system get weaponized against this white woman, not a Negro in sight. I said, look at the white on white violence. Jeez, it be your own crackers, right? So, whites, it's time to alley up. Alley up. Is that a thing? I know the phrase is anti up. Well, anti up and alley up, right? And I know the whites we have with us. I know y'all with the shits, but go tell the others like y'all have been doing. Listen, cops ain't shit out here, okay? The cops are not shit. And as soon as they get the call, the police, law enforcement as a whole, right? Say if Trump does get reelected, right? You think the cops are not riding for Trump as a whole, right? Maybe not the U.S. Capitol Police. That they might not be riding for Trump, but the rest of the police, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it is time to start checking these motherfuckers right now. If you are white, you know what I'm saying? In fact, let's get into all of them town, those town council meetings, those city council meetings, and let us at the whites, because y'all get listened to sometimes. Y'all go in there and start calling for the reduction of these police budgets. Let me just mention this quickly. On TV tonight is National Night Out. What's tonight? Tonight is Tuesday, whatever the fuck. I have no idea what day it is. The 6th of August, National Night Out, a propagandist holiday where the police and communities across America join hands with the folks in their neighborhoods to show that the police understand that, black people don't like to be bust upside the head every night. So tonight they took the night off for the National Night Out, the national night of not busting niggas upside the head for one night, right? It's some propaganda bullshit. So that's going on. So in as this was being announced, that the DC chief of police, who is a woman now, Pamela Smith, is that her name? Whatever. She was on TV talking about National Night Out, and violent crime is down overall in the city. And I said, ooh, crime is down in DC. So we're gonna put a hiring freeze for all these cops you're trying to hire, right? Like, oh, is DC still experiencing an officer shortage whilst violent crime is down? Oh, well, it seems as though the job can be done without swelling the ranks of police. And matter of fact, while we're putting a hiring freeze on cops, because we don't really seem to need them in order to bring crime down, why don't we reappropriate and redistribute the funds allocated for hiring new officers and put those back in the community, right? Because these motherfuckers literally just cut the free bus service line in DC. They cut the DC circulator out of the fucking city budget. The DC circulator is not going to be running after, I think, October or November of 2024. In some areas of the city, especially Ward 7 and 8, the DC circulator line will take residents to the only grocery store in the fucking quadrant in the whole ward. But they cut that and left money in to make sure that we got to get more officers on the streets because why? You just told me crime is down. So tell me why we need more fucking officers on the street. Don't believe the hype, kids. All cops are bastards. All politicians who support cops are bastards. And white folks, the sooner y'all realize that the cops' only job is to fuck with people and to exercise their power, sometimes in very violent ways, lest you claim to be a person, you know your rights. Oh, that's a reason for them to smack you harder. Oh, you know your rights, huh? Ah, yeah, okay. Y'all better get a hold of these police before these police start to get a hold of you.